What's up? It's your boy D Change coming at you with another Daily Dave. This one's for Sunday, April 26th, 2020. And to continue my nostalgia trip, or maybe end it, or related to it, I have a little note here about things like how my taste has changed as I've aged, such as my preferences for things. And one big thing I can say that definitely has changed is my preference for leather. Now, when I was a kid, I thought leather smelled like old people, and it was just, I don't know, kind of like off-putting. But now I feel like, hey, this is like a great thing. I really like leather, you know? Maybe that just means I'm an old person now. You know, I've got the gross, like, wrinkly, smelly skin. Great. Fantastic. Good to know. That's what kids think about me these days. No, but I think there's some sort of there's like a little bit of explanation for this, in the sense that like our senses change over time. And so one explanation is that when you're younger, your senses might be more heightened. So especially like your taste and your smell, because they work together. If you've ever noticed, like, if you lose your ability to smell for a while because of like a cold or something, you'll notice that you can't taste as well. And that's because aroma is a big part of like experiencing the pleasure slash flavors of food and all that. So I think maybe leather smelled too strong, like, to me when I was a kid. And I've noticed that with a lot of things in general, a lot of scents, a lot of smells, a lot of and I feel like I can get sensory overload really easily. So certain things would smell way stronger than I felt like they needed to. Of course, you get used to it pretty easily once you're acclimated, but the reintroduction is always kind of crazy. And so I guess what I can really think about is, like, you know, either stuff that like my grandfather owned, or like the leather shoes that my father wore. And like you could always kind of smell them from a distance and be like, whatever. Like leather bags that like looked really old, especially suitcases, I felt like were like, it smells kind of musty and not my thing, you know? Fast forward to now, man, like I love collecting leather shoes, like I love my leather belts. I'm really into like the full grain leather, like the culture of like handcrafted and higher quality and all that, rather than like the mass produced stuff that's or overly mass produced, that's just like hanging off of department store hangers and stuff like that. Racks, that's what they're called, the store racks. And yeah, it's pretty funny because I don't know if it's because my senses have changed necessarily, or if it's just higher quality products, but like the shoes I owned, I love how they smell. Like I remember the first time I bought a pair and I opened up the box, and that like aroma of like leather shoes came out, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. It's really like fragrant, I guess. It's a strong smell, but then it kind of airs out, and then it's not really like a big deal anymore. But I remember when I was living in Tokyo, since my room was so small, and I kept my shoes in that room because it was like a dorm thing. It wasn't like I had separate rooms or anything like that. I had like 2 or 3 pairs with me at the max at one time. Like I think I brought 1 pair with me, and then I bought a pair and shipped it over, and then I brought another one over because I was like on this interviewing spree. So I needed clothes like that. But yeah, I remember one time I was like laying in my bed, and then I smelled the shoes like as if they had like let out an aroma while just sitting there. And I thought that was interesting. I don't know if it's my senses like recalibrating, or if I don't know. Yeah, some sort of spiritual thing maybe. I don't know. But I thought that was really interesting. And they still smelled great, you know. I mean, one reality is I do take care of the shoes. I keep those cedar shoe trees inside of them, which are basically just blocks that kind of help keep the shape of the shoe while no one's wearing it. So that's their main purpose, by the way. Some people claim that it helps to dry the shoe out faster, but I think from like a scientific standpoint, it doesn't really make sense because of the fact that moisture in the shoe needs more surface area to kind of like evaporate. And when you're actually sticking the shoe trees inside, you're like kind of blocking off the transfer of moisture into the air. But I don't think it's gonna mess up the shoes necessarily. I think it's just a case of like that's not exactly what it's for. So yeah, I really like leather now, and I mean, I think there's still cases where I'll be like, that's kind of off. Like maybe it still doesn't smell that great, or maybe it's just like, you know, there's definitely a lot of leather that's like too gaudy. And then there's like I don't know if it's like the 90s or early 2000s, like super plasticky looking leather. Wasn't down with that. Maybe it was pleather, I don't know. But I've never really preferred leather seats in cars. I've always I mean, at least since getting my current car, I've really liked the more like synthetic cloth materials, where maybe it's like a blend, but it's because they weave it similar to like my office chair, where it's kind of like ventilated, or it's like multi-layered so that it's not trapping so much heat. I feel like leather is just leather just does that all the time, and not a big fan of that. But I've noticed that as time has gone on, yeah, sorry, I'm like getting all flummy. I just ate a bunch of like corn chips. I've noticed that as time has gone on, I feel like leather chairs have gotten better. Like I've sat in multiple cars from different brands and all that, and I'm like, hey, yeah, I think they really improved on the feel of leather chairs at least in certain cars. I can't be too sure about that though, because I'm not sitting in a bunch of different cars all the time. So I have a similar feeling about this with jeans. So the funny story is, like, when I was a kid, sometime in the middle of like either elementary school, middle school or so, I was wearing jeans regularly, and they weren't like fashionable or anything. Clearly, it was like, you know, buy the cheapest stuff that you can wear because you're gonna grow out of it really quick. So we're not gonna worry about like your figure or anything like that, or your fashion sense at all. Again, I didn't get into all this stuff until maybe like college and later, when I had like disposable income and I actually started like looking into what I wanted to look like. So yeah, so I wore jeans as a kid, and then at some point, I don't know why, but like I remember telling my mom, like, I don't, you know, I'm so embarrassed about like wearing jeans, or I don't want to wear them anymore. Like I'd rather wear like khaki pants. And so I was on this like khaki pants spree, like the ones with the side pockets and all that, to carry all the good things, to carry my tater tots in, you know? And that was really funny because khaki pants are pretty comfortable. So I'm glad like I had them for a long time, you know? And I think back in those days, like, it was fine. I look at pictures of myself from back then and I'm kind of like, okay, whatever, dude, you know, you do you. But, you know, it doesn't matter that much. Like, it's still just one of those like kid things. And I think a lot of people around me were still wearing them. It doesn't matter too much anyway, though. So I had khaki pants for a while, and then at some point in college, I think I had another reversal, and I was like, nah, man, I gotta get on that jeans game. And I never went back to the khaki pants. Sadly, or maybe appropriately so. Because I guess khaki pants just don't have a place in like fashion. But in terms of practicality, they're definitely there, you know? It's definitely one reason why I rocked them for so long. But yeah, I guess I started paying attention to how I dressed, and I don't know, I wanted to impress women or something like that. So like I started getting jeans, and I remember like this is like good to look back and be like, yeah, you didn't, you know, you're just a noob or whatever. I remember buying like bootcut jeans, or getting bootcut jeans for like as a gift. And eventually I noticed like they flared out, and I was like, what, you know, why does it look like this? It looks like I have bell bottoms or something. It reminded me of like the jeans my sisters would wear, because that was really popular with girls or women back then, where it was like you kind of had that figure where at the end it flared out. And I just feel like a lot of girls back then would wear jeans like that, and I was like, oh shoot, And then I discovered, there's different cuts, like straight cut. And so I started going in the straight cut, and since I am skinny, like, it's funny because, especially with the khaki pants and then the jeans before that, they were never, the actual size, like, or, they weren't form fitting. If anything, all my clothes were baggy. And so it just kind of looked like, it looked fine. It was like typical 90s kids style. Had these like chunky pants or whatever, right? They weren't like sagging necessarily, but it was just, the good thing is I was still able to wear all of these like without a belt, right? And that's one thing I still agree with, or like, what's that word? Proselytize? I don't know. Like, I still sing praises of. It's like, you should be able to wear pants without a belt first, and then like the belt's an accessory or something like that. But then again, I don't know. Like, everyone's also a different body shape, so it could just be a case of like sometimes you just got to use the belt. I'm just not a fan of that, and I guess luckily for me, I've stayed the same like waist width for a long time. So yeah, I remember switching over to like jeans and like straight cut, and started going into like the slim sizes, and I was like, that's when you could finally see how skinny my legs were. And I was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. And the irony is like I almost went even skinnier. I started buying like Levi's like 511s, which were like the very like, they're low waist, and then like they tapered kind of aggressively. So you had this very, I remember I had this look where I was wearing like fairly like small tight shirts. I had this like white belt, kind of skinny jeans, pretty much skinny jeans. Like they were like, Levi's didn't call them skinny jeans. They were like slim, because they were above the 510s. 510 was skinny and 511 was like slim, and then like 514 was like straight. Anyway, but yeah, I just remember like it was basically like an outline of my body, and then I had my red chucks, and I remember that being like a really iconic look for me back in college. And it had like the, I guess I want to say Bruce Lee hair, where it was just like kind of bowlish, where it was just covering all over and growing into my eyes and all that, because I didn't want to get haircuts very often. And yeah, I remember that time, and I'm like, yeah, that was an interesting look, but yeah, now I've kind of graduated into like, raw denim and all that, so an even more niche like subculture of clothing. And I'm not too crazy into it. I just wanted to try it out, and what better place to do it than in Japan, the place that arguably produces the best raw denim in the world now. Ironically, it's like they kind of took that over from the US after it lost popularity here. And so yeah, I actually went to Okayama. I went to Kojima Jean Street, like the home of so many of these like artisan jeans crafters. And over there I bought 2 pairs, and paid a very hefty price for them, because you tell the average person you just spent like $300 on 2 pairs of jeans. They're like, holy hell. What? Because yeah, they're definitely novelty items, so it's not exactly something you just kind of buy on a whim, maybe. But that's the thing. If you have the disposable income, or you have like the passion and like the craftsmanship of the jeans, ooh, like I think a lot of times you'll be pleasantly surprised. Like, I'm just sad that back then I didn't know that like Momotaro made a slim fit that tapered. I just went for the straight cut, and I don't like how it looks on me, so I actually ended up not wearing that pair a lot. But like the attention to detail on that pair of jeans is incredible. Like, I just love I love how they make it stand out. Like, it looks like a regular pair of jeans, and most people won't be able to tell. And that's kind of the point. I really like brands that kind of do the whole like, if you know, but you're not like gaudy. Like that's the funny thing about like I like fashion and style. Like, I feel like fashion is very much like, look at me, look at these huge brands that I'm wearing. But then like, or at least in, I don't know, in kind of like not like fashion shows necessarily, but more of a like, when people are trying to like rock stuff on Instagram and post pictures about what purses they're holding, what bags they're they've got whatever they're wearing. But like in terms of style, that's more dependent on like, you know, the actual profile of the clothes, how it fits you, and how it kind of expresses your character better. But I feel like in a subtle way, right? Unless you want to go loud. So the Momotaros, I got the Riding to Battle series, which has the 2 white battle stripes on the rear right pocket. And then I noticed that every button had the is it not an embroidery, it's an embossment of like the Peach logo that they use. And yeah, I love the like the bright pink inseam stitching. Just incredible. And since it's selvedge denim, like when you flip the cuffs up from the bottom, you see the pink stitching there, and then you see the selvage layer where it's like dark blue and a layer of white and then another dark blue, and then the pink stitching. It just blew my mind. And even when you look on the inside and see how they sewed the pockets and like the printing and the imprinting on the fabric inside, it's just like, wow, dude. Yeah, it was just incredible. Like I really wish that I had a pair of those jeans that I liked a lot more. And funny story, I have a my most watched YouTube video of all time is a video where I just talk about buying jeans from Okayama. And to this day, there are people, I guess, that want to see like a fade update on those jeans. And I'm so sorry to say that like the Momotaros like did not get a lot of wear. Like I think I went maybe half a year with them because I ended up buying a new pair of like kind of a mirrored pair of the other jeans that I had that were more comfortable. And so I ended up kind of retiring the Momotaros. So I don't know. It's just a funny little afterthought. And I guess yeah, I guess like for some reason I just really got into these this kind of culture of like, you know, knowing the story of how something is made, where it comes from, the process, and like, you know, the willingness to pay for like, you know, quality and like the labor that's involved. Because like obviously I think it's a great thing that we are able to like buy clothes for like really cheap, and you know, everyone can be clothed for like low amounts of money and stuff like that, right? It's very plentiful. There's a lot of access to it. We don't have to like worry so much about like, oh no, like you're gonna go cold because you don't have clothing. But at the same time, like, you know, there's very real ramifications behind this, and I don't think most people want to look into that. And I mean, I'm not super comfortable thinking about like child labor making clothing all the time, you know. So it's just one of those I guess like moral quandaries that kind of pop up every now and then. So I do feel like my move into more like, if I know who makes it and where the money goes, I'm much more comfortable spending it that way. And if you can sell me on the story, like that's great. You know, to me, that's true marketing. When you're able to convince someone that what you're doing is worth paying for, that's your gold. That's what you need. You need the true fans who are willing to buy into you, like your ideology and what you do, you know. At least that's how I feel about it. Of course, the other side of that coin is like, you know, be a very practical consumerist. You can because you can do really well that way too. You can pay really good prices for stuff that's great for you, and you know, kind of the point of the system is to get everything you need the most effective way or the most efficient way, in which aka like paying the lowest prices you can for the best quality you need at the time. And definitely being a consumer in the sense that you have to buy the things that are going to solve the problems in your life. And I don't think they're diametrically opposed to each other, because the point is still like, I guess you just don't want to like, the problem with fast fashion is that stuff just falls apart in a year or whatever. Like I remember having an H&M jacket that tore within a year, but you know, it only cost like $40 or whatever or less. So that's kind of my point, is that like that jacket could have been made by God knows who, you know, some slave labor or like little children or something like that, and or it's just it contributes to pollution, contributes to so much like garbage because I threw it out, right? Or maybe I don't know. Yeah, but on the other hand, like if you're able to get high quality materials and products and clothing that don't have to be thrown away for 5+ years, like that's great, right? But I guess the problem is, we're never really gonna know, right? One issue is that the competition is so fierce. When you're able to sell shoes for like $40 a pair, who wants to spend 120 plus on shoes? That's why, sadly, a lot of these brands and stuff consolidated into larger umbrellas because, it's really hard to run like a handcrafted, high quality artisan type of shop and brand now. So it's just the way things go when like your audience goes from your small town in the middle of America now to like the world, right? You're competing against the world's manufacturing standards and infrastructure. So it is very difficult. And I can see why there's an argument to be made about like, an insular domestic protection for industry. It's just really tough because there's a lot of pros and cons to all the things we do. So, and last but not least, I was going to talk about sugar. When I was young, I had like a really crazy sweet tooth. Like I could eat like a lot of sweet things. Now I've noticed that like most things are kind of disgusting to me. The one thing that like hasn't left me is Coca-Cola. I don't know why. There's something very like nostalgic and what would you call it? I'm basically addicted to Coke. Okay, like so. I got it from my mom. I'm gonna blame her. No, but it is definitely one of those drinks where I think they knew what they were doing. Like they definitely have a formula that kind of makes it so that like if you don't drink soda at all, like that's a good thing. You don't need to start. You never need to pick it up again. But if you don't drink it at all and you drink a Coke and it's too sweet, that's because it is too sweet. But like I've noticed that with Coke, it has this like very good balance of flavors in it. Like the whole Coke versus Pepsi thing was huge, and everyone like liked Pepsi on the first sip. But then the whole thing, the joke is that as time goes on, you prefer the Coke to the Pepsi because the Pepsi was actually too sweet. So just funny stuff like that. I just remember, man, like in high school or college, I would go out with friends and we'd go to like Denny's at 3 a.m. and get like super rich brownies or fudge brownies covered in like ice cream or some shit like that. And it was like intense, and like it'd be like 3 or 4 of us sharing one. Now, like I feel like if that thing came out, I would like want to throw up immediately. I just I got some Rouse brand cookies recently, like chocolate chip and M&Ms, because I've been craving like a little bit of chocolate, and so I love chocolate chip cookies. And I remember biting into them and I was just like, oh, these are too sweet, why? So it's just really funny how like that's changed for me. And the funny thing is I told this to my mom and she was like, actually now that I've gotten older, I kind of want like sweet things now. And like I've noticed she eats more like snacks, like potato chips and like just salty things and sweet things. And I'm just like, what the heck, But also I hear that, as you get older, your taste buds kind of like fade in their ability to pick up flavor. So that's why you want stronger stuff. So I'm like, all right. I remember my grandpa would be like, oh, like, this soup that your mom made needs more salt. And he'll like pour a bunch in. And he's like, oh, it's much better. And I remember like he made something for us one time. And I was like, oh God, it's too salty. So just a funny observation I had. And I guess I wanted to throw out a little glimpse of like, oh, what was younger Dave like, and how have things progressed? And in a way, I feel like this is a good like this like type of introspection, or this type of I don't know, diary / writing / vlog series is good. Like having the ability to kind of take a look back and then hopefully kind of analyze it. And I'm mostly just talking train of thought, because that's literally what I'm doing most of the time. Like when my mind is overactive, it's doing stuff like this, where it's going like, hey, do you remember this? You remember that? Like, what does this mean? And part of it is me trying to ignore it, because sometimes I come up across things that I guess I'm afraid to confront. But sometimes it's actually I think it's good that it's good to actually do that, and I need to be doing that more. So getting into that practice again. I know I did this a lot when I was in Tokyo, for better or worse. I mean, I think it was still super beneficial to me, but I do believe that upon coming back, I did lose a little bit of that, purely because I was trying to return to comfort again, to be more secure or whatever. So anyway, I've gone on long enough about this. If you have anything that has changed in your tastes or preferences from when you're young to now and you think it's interesting, totally leave those in the comments. Let me know what you think. And thank you for listening and watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.